Participation regular meeting on Monday, March 14th, 2022. Roll call, Ms. Boyden.
Ms. Cato? Here. Mr. Hookrano?
Here.
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Shook?
Here.
And Dr. Wong?
Here. Right, if you will please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think the recognition fellow is on his way, but he's not here yet.
So for recognition,
Just come back to it.
we will come back to recognition.
Here's thank you. That's the beginning, thank you.
Okay. I can filibuster. You can give me you can give me a topic, like Snoop Doggy Dogg was neither a Snoop nor a dog. We can filibuster on that for minutes. Huh?
Oreos versus store-bought.
Mm-hmm.
We can come back to him.
Double stuff?
Yeah.
He's not here yet?
Yeah.
Alright, we'll come back. We'll come back. Alright, we do reserve time for public participation at board meetings. Just a brief commentary before we get to that. We do ask that you, we'll start by asking you to state your first name for the record. During public participation, each member of the public should direct their comments to the board as a whole. Consistent with our policy, it's not a time to question individual board members or district employees. I just want to remind everybody that state and federal student privacy laws prevent the district from disclosing information related to any student, and you will not be permitted to discuss individual students during the public participation. Stating that, do we have anybody here to bring something before the board for public participation?
I don't see anybody.
Okay. That being said, we will move to item number 2, which is department presentations. Ms. Grady Watts.
I have a couple handouts for you. Oh, yeah, thank you. Okay. Do you know, can you, I can do this, right, and still cast, or is that not a thing? Yeah, so, cast your, go to cast your session, and then under sources, do desktop. And then you switch tab and do the thing.
Okay, so you guys should have 3 handouts each, and I'll kind of go through those here in a minute. What I want to touch on today about the high school is I want to talk about graduation plans, pathways, our new engineering pathway, student achievement, and then student activities. So it shouldn't be too long. The first thing we're going to talk about are graduation plans. So you should have a copy of that document in front of you. Starting with the junior class, the state of Ohio is requiring that all students have a graduation plan. And this is the example, this is what we've been using at the high school, so starting this year. So basically, we should have just about every single junior now. We've sat down with them individually and worked through this graduation plan with them. And I'm gonna pull that up here. So what that means, and this also kind of shows you the different graduation requirements starting with next year. So the first part is just simply the credits. That really hasn't changed a whole lot. Once they pass the financial, personal finance, that will be added to this. This document will be a fluid document, so as the state changes and modifies, I already know there's like a couple additions they're already talking about. We'll just simply add that in here, it's not a big deal. But that first page is just simply what credits do I need to graduate? And then you can kind of see at the bottom here, these are the different honors diplomas that students could earn. Traditionally what they're earning are just like the LU honors diploma, but the state actually has like an arts diploma, career tech honors diploma, like all different types of honors diplomas. And some of them students can earn. So we have those kind of linked there and we talk about those options with students. And then we kind of talk about, you know, what do they want to do after they graduate, and then put supports in place to get them there. The second part, on the second page, you'll see the second requirement for graduation that's changing for next year. So it used to be, and how it is right now, is students have to pass, they have to earn their credits, and then they have to earn so many points on the air test, right? Well, now that's changing. Instead of, they still have to take the air test, but they only have to earn a competency score. And you can see that right there, Algebra 1 is 684, ELA 2 684. That's not even a proficiency score. Like, that's not even proficient. That's less than proficient. If they score 684 or higher on those two tests, bam, done, move on, and then you go to the third requirement. If they don't, because some students don't, they continue to retake those tests, the air tests. Like, we already had retakes this in December for the fall testing. We'll do retakes again along with first timers in the spring. But let's say that they're not passing these tests for whatever reason. They have they have 3 other options that they could choose from to meet that second requirement to graduate. They can earn CCP credit, or they can demonstrate 2 career-focused activities. So you see that foundational, they can do any of those options, and then a supporting option like work-based learning. So we have quite a few students doing work study and work-based learning. Or the third option would be they could enlist in the military. So if they passed their credits, they did one of those things, now they just have that last third hoop to jump through in order to graduate, which are the SEALs that I'm sure you've heard Dr. Johnson talk about a little bit. You have to earn 2 SEALs. One has to be state defined, which is in the red right here. The ones in black are the local ones that were defined on board policy already. These will actually be like little stickers on the diploma that the students will earn. So this is a document we're actually talking about on the freshman only day in the fall, starting these freshman year. So the freshmen will come in during one of their sessions, we'll sit down and we'll actually go through these and then just update them throughout their high school career. So that is the graduation plan in a very quick nutshell. Which kind of leads us to the next document, which are the pathways document. Now I know this is, you're not gonna be able to do that, so tiny. The idea is I want to actually get them kind of like on larger posters and have them hung up in the school in like strategic places. But I'll pull this up on the screen. The purpose of this pathway document, we have, for being such a small high school, we actually have a lot of really cool opportunities for students. And some of the feedback I received from the community when I first came on in August was that they weren't aware of, like I specifically asked, are you aware of CCP? Like, do you know what that is? And so there was demonstrated basically like a need for knowing the opportunities that are available. So that's kind of the idea behind this document. So when you look at it, and this will be, first of all, this will be posted to the website. The audience is students and families. Like that's who I'm kind of gearing this towards here. So it basically has several different pathways. You can see there's the engineering pathway, which we'll talk about in a little bit. There's the ag pathway, infotech, college credit plus, and fire explorer. We are going to add a fine arts, performing arts pathway as well. And then we do have like a business pathway. It's just not fully developed yet, so it's not career tech, but it's a pathway. So there's enough classes that I want to add that eventually to this as well. So if I'm a student and I'm registering for, especially if I'm an 8th grader registering for classes, I want to be looking at this document because it tells me kind of like a sample schedule. So if I'm interested in engineering and I'm going into 9th grade, I can see like the classes I need to take a math class, ELA 9, world history, and then I can see my engineering class I'm gonna take in there, and I can kind of see the progression here. So I know I'm gonna take engineering design freshman year, I'm gonna take unmanned aircraft systems sophomore year, DE, and it keeps going. The reason those two classes are in yellow is because they're not offered yet. That's a new program, which I'll talk about in a minute, and those classes, so that next class will come 2023 because the teacher has to get trained and we have to get the equipment and all that stuff, and then the last class will be added on in 2024. So it's like a growing program. So next year we'll have IED and the drone class, the unmanned aircraft systems. And then each of the pathways has credentials listed here at the bottom. And one of the cool things about these pathways is I really wanted to have them spell out like, what are you getting from this pathway? Besides obviously knowledge, experiences, they're cool classes. Besides that, what are you getting? Are you getting college credit? Are you getting a credential, a certificate, a license, something like that? In parentheses, those are the points that the state of Ohio gives you. So that first one, Autodesk Fusion 360, they're actually will get 4 points. The only reason that even matters is because if you flip back to that graduation plan, if you get 12 points in a single career field or in a single pathway, it's one of the graduation requirements. Additionally, the way our current state report card reads, it will actually bump up our state report card. That's all gonna change, so I don't know if that will ever even matter, but the way it reads now, it would bump up under prepared for success. So if you kind of look, even just looking through that engineering one, you can see like freshman year, they would get Autodesk Fusion 360. Sophomore year in that drone class, they actually would get quite a few. They would get over 12 points because they'd be getting just several, you can see there's several licenses. And then if you for ag, there's welding, which is a 12, like right off the bat. You scroll down for infotech, has several different ones. And all of these, by the way, offer college credits as well. I wanted to add in College Credit Plus because there are so many opportunities for like in-house and off-campus. So just making kids know, like, if you take enough college credit classes, you don't have to take classes at all at the school. Like, you can be completely, that could be your pathway, period. And then Fire Explorer, that's a really cool program. I actually just met with Casey at the firehouse last week. And we kind of knocked out some of this. But if you're a freshman, you'll have freshman and sophomore actually take activities. They do activities outside of the class, but because they do so many, they can still earn an elective credit, which they're doing now. But then junior and senior year, they'll do some credentials, and it's actually part of their day. So they earn these credentials. So like the students this year already earned these credentials, like the juniors and seniors. So that is the pathway doc. If you kind of scroll to the right there, it talks about potential graduation seals and potential honors diplomas that you could earn if you stuck with that pathway. Keep in mind, these are mainly like all elective credits. So you don't have to be in a pathway to take these classes. You don't even have to take them necessarily in this order. That would just be if you were going 4 years like straight through.
So, a question, it's not really about the pathways, but it's more about the last comment you made, which I love. I've said for a long time that I love what we offer here and the breadth of what we offer here for such a small school district.
Yeah.
I've heard though that there's discussion on doing away with Lion period, which concerns me drastically, because that then takes away a period in order to do electives, which is what we just said we love to have. So can you speak to that at all? Is that on the table still, or?
So I met with the BLT, and well, first of all, I surveyed the staff, and they're very split on Lion period. And so we talked to the BLT and kind of came up with a couple different scenarios. We don't have electives during Lion, at all. There's no so we've introduced weightlifting, but they're not earning a credit for it. It's just something to do during that period. The teachers talked about, and again, they're torn, right? Some really use it for grade checks. A lot of students are taking CCP classes. use it as a study hall, like religiously. And then you have other people that it's just, they don't wanna do anything during that time, so it's not utilized. So we discussed, potentially like shortening the time and moving it to the beginning of the day. So, cause right now it's like 40 something minutes, which is a long, like a lot of schools have advisory periods, but they're normally like 25 minutes, they're much shorter. So this is a very long period. So we've talked about that as well. We have not pulled the trigger on that. The way it stands right now in the schedule is no change, is how it stands right now.
Okay.
But right now, the line period, what I just read or heard you say, the line period doesn't affect a student taking a different elective. There's no electives during that time. So if we did away with that, there could be an elective.
I can tell you the students from last year felt like if we did away with line period, they were losing the opportunity to take an elective. And that came straight from the 5 or 6 kids that I talked to last year in the spring.
Yeah,
That was their biggest fear, and and community members reached out to me too. That was their biggest fear around doing away with line period.
Yeah, it's just an advisory period.
So, I think we just need to, so then from a communication standpoint, we need to make sure we overcome that, because that's out there. Like, what's being said is if we do away with line period, we're doing away with an elective, and it'll reduce. So what's being said is we have to understand, as a 14-year-old in 8th grade, I have to understand my pathway or my opportunities much earlier, and we're making kids choose earlier in the process, is what has been shared with me, for what it's worth.
So, you mean with so I did talk about potentially having, students, you have to choose a pathway, and, like I pulled back on that, so the idea that we're gonna go with is, hey, this is an informational document. This is gonna show you the opportunities that exist, you can choose them. It's always been, you can take whatever class you want, like, you don't have to be in this pathway. I can be an ag and I can take drones, or I can be, you know what I mean, like, so that's gonna be unchanged. In terms of the line period, like I said, that's not gonna impact, I do not believe we're going to pull line period away. Like,
Okay.
I do not think I have support for that. There's a lot of good things about line period, like when we have to pull students for, counseling, we have different programs, like that is our go-to time to pull students. So that would be a hindrance to lose it altogether. It's just how do we make it more efficient and, not even efficient, so that's not even the right word, just more, impactful, like productive, there's the word I'm looking for. So
Okay.
that's what we're looking for, so that's basically completely still open to discussion.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And then,
Go ahead.
my other question would be around physical education. So, I liked what I heard you say about weightlifting as an option. I feel like other schools are doing things like advanced PE and some stuff in that situation that is allowing kids to get the opportunity to get some workouts in. Is that on the table at Liberty Union? Is that something that we're exploring any further on?
I would love to get a PE teacher. But my understanding is that the PE teacher that position was cut a couple years ago, is my understanding. So we have, one teacher that's certified in PE, but she's an IS, so that would be kind of, we could look at numbers. So we did throw around the idea of maybe just offering, like, could we offer like 1 or 2 classes? But I don't know if it's being considered to hire, like, to reinstate that program.
I think Alan did that when there was an advanced PE, I think, wasn't there, when we were, I think didn't Mr. Young do that
Yes,
for a
there was,
while?
there was PE that you came in, and I think most of the kids are taking PE in the summer, or they're
A
doing it
lot of them are
online.
doing, a lot of them are doing.
But I think we're
sport
missing,
credit.
we're missing an opportunity, to maybe get some kids.
So right now, what we ended up happening during line period, we took in, we have, Seth is doing a non-credit weightlifting class, just on kids that are interested in it, and they go over to the weight room, and that's been wonderful. He loves doing it, the kids love it, it's been wonderful. And then during 9th period, just the way it worked out, we were able to, have a teacher do, a small PE class for some students that had been in an online class, finished it, and, so she's been kind of she just took that on basically. And that's going really well too. Again, it's not for credit though. But I will also say none of the kids in that class need that credit because they all have the PE waiver. So I think that was kind of the decision, was when you look at the number of students that participate in sports in this district, you didn't actually need it for credit.
Right.
So I think it became kind of a, and I'm, you know, that's before my time, but I'm thinking it was maybe like a need versus financial
Okay.
decision is my guess. So,
Something to think about, maybe.
yeah.
So looking at the pathway, so the advantage of the pathways, if they pick the pathway fairly, that's pretty much gonna guarantee them that they're gonna meet. If they follow that pathway through, that's the advantage of picking a pathway and sticking it through.
That is an advantage, and the credentials that
And
you
the
get.
credentials.
Mhm.
So the kid that maybe doesn't necessarily want to, can still do everything, it's just they might have I shouldn't say harder time, but they might have to be a little more leery, I guess, or just more watchful to make sure that they're gonna have what they need to graduate.
Yeah,
Okay,
like a graduation. Yeah, you definitely don't have to be in, for instance, I don't have art on there at all, but you could get a couple different seals based on just being, like, taking a bunch of art classes or being in the play. You could get a whole seal just being in the play because there's so many hours put into it. So you definitely can still, even if you're not in a pathway, you absolutely can earn your seals. I think it's just making sure our incoming freshmen are aware of, the requirements, and then just being intentional about getting those. But there are so many opportunities for such a small school that it's very, very doable. It's not gonna be difficult to get those seals at all.
With waiting until the 11th grade to speak with these, students, are we finding any of them that are in dire straits? I mean, as far as, like, I guess what I'm getting at, should we be talking to them in the 10th grade instead of the 11th grade?
So we plan to start in August with the freshmen.
Oh,
So we
okay,
wanna
good.
actually develop a plan, so that way, you know, knowledge is power, so that way they have that knowledge and they can start making some decisions,
Okay.
about, like, they'll know the consequences, you know,
Okay, good.
of, hey, if I fail these credits, you know, and that's seen it, I think, on a personal plan, can be kind of powerful. So, yeah, so right now, the sophomore and freshmen don't have them, but, well, you know, we had to have them for the juniors, so we're kind of working backwards, but next year, the freshmen will have them, right out the gate, and then and then we'll just update them like every year. That's kind of the plan.
Good.
Yeah, and then we're talking too, because right now, when we did them, we didn't have a method for sharing them with the students or the families, and that's gonna be pretty easy to do. So that's what Tom and I were kind of talking about, was how do we wanna make it so maybe potentially even they're typing in the document, making a copy, it's theirs, we send it home to the family, just something to be more transparent. So we're talking about that for next year too, so. Any other questions about the pathway or the graduation plan before I switch on gears a little bit? Okay. This picture is kind of a cool picture. That's, the Fire Explorer program in their helicopter. So that's kind of cool, some of the experiences they get. Okay, so the engineering pathway is new this year. And I had referenced that a little bit in the pathway document. I'm really excited about this plan, or about this pathway. Right now we're teaching, you know, we have engineering design, and for that class we have, we purchased a couple of 3D printers that are part of the curriculum. We're utilizing Project Lead the Way, which is a very cool curriculum. It's hands-on. It's supposed to make learning, like, relevant to students, be real world application. So they're using, you know, as that's a new teacher teaching that program, but as he continues, you know, to get deeper into that curriculum, I think it's gonna be, like, just continue to get better. We just purchased 10 drones that are coming in this week. So during Lion period, we're doing some movement. So tomorrow actually, we'll have 2 combined classes during Lion where we'll have students that will just be, experimenting with those drones. They'll get a little license, you know, so they can fly it. And these are the cheaper drones that we're starting out with, but then starting next year is that unmanned safety, what is it called? Unmanned aircraft systems. And that program is really, it's legit and it's really cool. So they will spend the first semester getting certified. Basically, if you're thinking of like flight school, like it will be ground school, right? So they're gonna get all the background knowledge, on drones, and there's gonna be like different levels of drones. So we'll have one of the like really nice ones, and that second semester is when they'll actually get their Part 107 remote pilot's license, which, okay, that's kind of cool, but when you actually look at all the different certifications that they're gonna get through that program, they're gonna be able to come out making like real money, like straight out of high school with that. And it's not just real estate, you know, a lot of times I think they think like, oh, real estate, I can go take photos, and that's great, but there's so many other things that you can do. When I was talking to the organization that we're purchasing the curriculum from, they were just talking about how it's being projected that, you know, there'll be more need for that career, and they really see that where aviation is going. So I'm really, it kind of started off as like, we should do a drone class, and we could do like drone racing too. I met with this program, and it was like, wow, this is like really legit curriculum, and it's much more serious. So I'm excited to start that. So that should start in the fall. And you know, the messing around with the drones and getting a little certification will start this semester. So I'm excited for that. We're also looking at purchasing a laser cutter. Basically that engineering room, I want to be like a fab lab, in a way. So the laser cutter would go in there. We're hoping maybe next year or the year after to get a vinyl printer. And, the cool thing about, both of those, and well, actually the 3D printer too, is we've talked about doing maybe like an online, almost like an online store. So for with the vinyl printer, for example, you can purchase big, you know how people purchase those posters, like senior posters, graduation posters. We could actually sell those, and then along with so many other things, and then that money could actually start funding that program and the materials and keeping up with all the equipment, and it could become kind of this small business to keep the program running. So that's like the long-term vision for that. With the laser cutter you could buy, I mean, we could make tons of LU gear, like, you know, stainless steel cups and engraved with LU, whatever, like lots of cool different things. So we're excited about that. And then there's also, because it's Project Lead the Way, there's potential to get college credit too for students that stay in that pathway. Student achievement, I just wanted to briefly give you an idea of kind of what we're doing to address some of the needs on the state report card in terms of air testing. Actually today we purchased NWA MAP recently, and what that is it's a test for English, and well, it's reading actually, but so for our ELA classes and our math, Algebra 1 and geometry classes, and it's an assessment that we'll use that will give us data back on specifically like what grade level students are at in each of the areas within that content area. And it's a really cool program, but the idea behind that is that the teachers don't have, at the high school level, they don't have data to look at. They have air data, they have classroom assessment, you know, data that they give, like teacher-made assessments, but this is gonna provide some very, very concrete data that they can look at. Intervention specialists can use to write in IEPs, and it gives you, they'll just be able to differentiate their instruction based on this data, and that test will happen 3 times a year. And it just happens during the class period, so it's not overly intensive. And I'm hopeful that will start, you know, it also does like predictions for the state test too. So I'm hoping we can utilize that to start chipping away at those scores a little bit. The math department this year has been working really hard. They meet regularly with a math coach from Minds on Math. So she comes in the morning, a couple times a month, meets with the TBTs. She's actually going into the classroom soon. They did an after school session, so they've been working hard with her. And then we had about 9 teachers, I think, in the fall attend project-based learning, professional development. And so the teachers have been trying a little bit of that out in their classroom, and that's basically, it's a 2-day program, but it's really cool. They talk about, it's not just projects, but it's like real life application. So that's what they're trying to bring into the classroom a little bit. And then lastly, just touching on student activities that have happened this year. That bottom corner on the left, we actually have an esports team that kicked off this year. We lost, but it's okay. It was like, you know, Carissa actually got that up and running. So you can see there's quite a few kids there participating. And then on the right there, we did college and career family night, and we had 10 colleges that came in during that time that students and families were able to talk to, and we did a financial aid session and an Ohio Means Job session, and it was a really good evening, and I hope we can grow that next year. And then lastly, you know, we were able to do two what are those called? Pep rallies. 2 pep rallies. You can see on the bottom left, those are those big hamster balls that you can kind of crash into. So we bought those this year. And then we've had a couple dances too. You can see them dance into that, what's the name of that song? Go fishing in the dark, whatever. What is it?
Well, it's from the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band.
So, and then we have a couple more things coming up. We have Steam Night on April 21st. And then we'll have the senior zoo trip coming up, and, you know, Pride Awards, and graduation, all that stuff. So still lots going on. Do you guys have any questions for me? Alrighty.
All right, we will circle back to student recognition. I believe we've got Jacob McLean here, so I will hand it over to Mr. Alford.
You gotta come up with that. We're recognizing you, not me. So, this is senior Jacob McLean, you know, state qualifier this year for the wrestling tournament. I want to talk a little bit just more about some of the accomplishments that this young man has come across. I've been with the wrestling program up until this year in some capacity, whether that was junior high or head coach at the varsity level since 2003. So probably right around when you were born. Yeah. And so I've seen kind of the legacy that's happened throughout Liberty Union and wrestling and the wrestling program here. When I first started wrestling here, it was really weird. You know, I have head coach that was a lighter weight. We had this little tiny guy that's coaching a junior high team. And it just seemed like all we could produce at a super high level, competing at the state level, was heavyweights. And so we started off, when I got here, we started off with Stephen Mulcahy and Damian McAfee. And then we went to, you know, we had his older brother was a pretty good heavyweight. We had heavier weights, 95, Casey Fleeman, who's would have been a 3-time state qualifier. Drew Walker, who's a state qualifier, state all-around. Looking back the last just 7 years since I took over the head program up until this year, we've had 7 state qualifiers or state alternates come out of this little tiny school, you know, in a kind of an unknown sport for this area. And so to add one more is pretty big, but I'm talking about that legacy and all these kids back in that time period, you know, Kobe Barnett and Drew Walker and things like that, really great wrestlers. Jake was able to do something that those kids were never able to do, or from the history that we have from Liberty Union Wrestling, anyone at Liberty Union has ever done. To talk about that is, he started his 7th grade year wrestling, and so he's been with the program for 6 years, and he's had to do everything and anything to try to find his way. And unfortunately for him, starting out, you know, in high school, he was a freshman, he didn't have a spot in the lineup. So what he did was, what do I need to do to get into the lineup? And he lost weight and gained weight and lost weight and gained weight to try to just find a spot so he could wrestle. He just wanted to be in the varsity lineup. As a freshman, he was a district alternate, you know, at 170 pounds. His sophomore year, he got stuck behind a state qualifier and a state qualifier. He was kind of squished in between them there, so he had to find his way again and figure out where his place was in that lineup. And so he found a spot to wrestle in that lineup. His junior year, you know, again, he's behind another state qualifier, returning state qualifier. So he had to sacrifice some things and make a certain weight to be there. And again, he goes back and he is a district alternate again. So coming up into his senior year, he's never been a district even qualifier because he never made it in being an alternate. And you know, no one was talking about Jake throughout the state. I think at one point he was ranked like 40th in the state. You know, in the scheme of things, he's on the board, people have seen him, they know who he is, but they're not really talking about him at the state level. We get through this year, and he makes an accomplishment that if I could put it into perspective for people who aren't knowledgeable about wrestling, it's like basketball making scoring 1,000 points in your career. 100 win career in wrestling is a big deal. He gets his 100th win this year, right before sectionals, or was it at sectionals? It was at sectionals. And then he goes on to make the sectional finals. And he was a heartbreaker 1-0 in the sectional finals. So he puts himself in a district tournament, goes on, puts a string of wrestling together that, you talk about as a coach all the time. This has gotta be your best weekend. You're a senior. It's like it's your last match every match. Finds himself in the district finals, wins the district finals, and that's what I wanna talk about is the history. We can't find it anywhere. He's the only district champion that the Union's ever had. Makes it to the state tournament again. We go back to that rankings. He's ranked 40. They take 16. Even the top 16 kids in the state D3 are there. He makes his first win, loses a heartbreaker in the semifinals. I think, and then he has to wrestle a kid that he's lost to a couple times over his career, and loses another heartbreaker. And eventually didn't get what we wanted out of it and being on the podium, but he was top 12 in the state, 9 through 12 in the state. And then just a little interesting fact about that is that there's a minimum weight for heavyweight. So heavyweight goes from 217 to 285 pounds. So you get some grown men that wrestle at heavyweight at the state tournament, and he was barely making the state minimum to wrestle. So being the lightest guy at the state tournament and pushing kids and really making a name for himself is a big deal. So I think not only him and his parents back there need to be proud, but I think Liberty Union is pretty proud of him. So good job.
We get a picture for the, Stand right over there.
So little known fact, my brother-in-law, Stephen, so I've spent a ton of time with the state music. So heck of an accomplishment. He, on the other hand, was the exact.
He didn't have wrestling.
He didn't encourage right Thanksgiving dinner. He was in the garage, the yard bag, all that stuff. We were trying to get, at that time it was 275, he had it down to 275.
They did it.
Did.
Some of the real yearbooks.
So Shook graduated sometime before.
All right, moving on, number 3, discussion and approval of the minutes. This is, I think that takes us to page 19 and 45.
90.
So moved. I've got a motion by Sean Shook,
Second.
by Carol Cato, to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting held on February 14th, 2022, as printed above. Ms. Warrior?
Mr. Hookrunner.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Shook.
yes.
Dr. Ward.
Yes.
Mr. Cato.
Yes.
Monthly financials, Ms. Warrior?
All right. We have our monthly financial report. And if you look at, this is page 4. Overall, the revenue's up, and that's mainly due to the income tax. And our state revenue is up due to the changes in funding, which is mainly due to the student wellness money. It used to go into the 467 fund, and now it's going to the general fund. And then on page 6 is the expenditures, and our expenditures tend to look like they're lower because we're still expending the money out of the 467 fund. And after that's used up, that's when we start having to use the general fund. But first, we have to finish using the 467 fund. And page 8 is the interest. And page 9 is our revenue and expenditures, and we're at 67% of the year. and we're really close to where we should be. Of course, some will be up and down depending on where we are, but overall, we're really close. You have our reconciliation. And then you have our new monthly check report.
I love it.
Yeah, it changed because we had to change our software. The state made a change and we had to change to either their new software or pick something else. And there really wasn't anything else that was affordable and that we felt would give us what we all wanted. So we stuck with state for right now. On page 4, is check number 97962 towards the bottom of page 4 on February 18th for Ohio FFA camps. And that was for the 7th and 8th grade trip. It was $21,979. And it came out of the 018 Van Buren Scholarship Fund. And then you have our changes in appropriations for the 018 200s and 300s. And our donations. $970 from Robert and Joyce Schneider to the 8th grade Philadelphia trip. $216 from Hall of Fame Gate to the athletic department. $50 from Nikki Kopenauer to the 8th grade Philadelphia trip. And $150 from Courtney and Joshua Berry to the 8th grade Philadelphia trip. And that's what I have.
Any questions for Rachel? All right, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Sure. I have a motion by Sean Shook, seconded by Bill Moore to approve the monthly financial statements as printed above. Ms. Woodard?
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Shook,
Yes.
Dr. Water.
Yes.
Ms. Cato,
Yes.
Mr. Hookran.
Yes. 5, new business financial. A is for service providers. We have Meta Solutions for the 2022-2023 school year at a fee of $20,284.25. We also have a second one for Meta, same school year. This is for $10,039.19. The first one is for SIS support, Power School, Progress Book, and Infinite Campus. The second one is for IEP Anywhere Plus, Info Ohio, Library Services, Progress Book Suite, and Data Map Services. The last one here on new business financial service providers is the Chillicothe Telephone Company Horizon. This is for July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2027. So it's a 60-month cycle. And this is for internet service. The fee is $1,890 a month. Any questions there? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bill Moore, seconded by Carol Cato to approve items in the new business financial section. Ms. Bolden?
Mr. Shook,
Yes.
Dr. Water.
Yes.
Ms. Cato,
Yes.
Mr. Hookran.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
All right, item 6, new business personnel. A is the 2022 summer employment. The district would like to employ Jacob Berlekamp as in the tech department at a salary of $10.90 an hour, and that is effective May 9th through August 12th of 2022. B is resignations. We have Brett Bressler for science at the high school. This is retirement. It'll be effective June 30th, 2022. Kirsten Burnett, doing art at the elementary and middle school. This is a resignation effective July 31st, 2022. And Chris Schreier, secretary at the middle school. We have no idea how Tim's gonna do it next year. Purpose of retirement, effective June 30th of 2022. C is a supplemental salary agreement. This is for Aaron Riddle and Justin Brown. They are splitting the high school varsity assistant boys basketball salary. So they're splitting $2,285.56. D is the certified substitute list. So the superintendent requests board approval for the list of certified substitutes from the Fairfield County ESC That's Jane Butler, Cassandra Edwards, David King, Megan Royo, Madeline Weimer, and Michael Yankoviak. Thank you. I was really working on that one during lunch today. I gotta get this one right. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I will second it. I mean, it's always, you don't get involved in, as much, right? So,
Yes.
motion by John Moeller, seconded by Sean Hookrattle to approve items in the new business personnel section. Ms. Boyer?
Dr. Walter?
Yes.
Ms. Cato?
Yes.
Mr. Hookrat?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Shook?
Yes.
7, new business other. A is summer camps. The first one here is for approximately 25 FFA members and adults, including 2 FFA advisors, to attend. This is the FFA chapter will pay for the cost of transportation to and from the camp. This is in June of 2022. Transportations by Liberty Union school buses, lodgings at the FFA camp in Muskingum, chaperones or FFA advisors and parents. This will cost the students about $265 each, and the FFA advisor cost to be reimbursed from the CTE is $132.50 per advisor. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by John Walter, seconded by Sean Shook to approve items in the new business other section. Ms. Boyer?
Ms. Cato?
Yes.
Mr. Hookrat?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Shook?
Yes.
Dr. Walter?
Yes.
All right. 8, other matters as may properly come before the board. Seeing none, I'll move to 9, executive session. An executive session is requested by the superintendent for, let's see here. C.
C.
Okay. Do I have a motion to enter into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Carol Cato, seconded by Bill Moore, to go into executive session for the reasons stated above at 7:48 PM. Ms. Boyer?
Mr. Hookrat?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Shook?
Yes.
Dr. Walter?
Yes.
Ms. Cato?
Yes.
All right, for those online, we will not be coming back and making a vote on anything. All we will do is let everyone know when our next Board of Education meeting is.